We're calling the Selectboard meeting to order, Monday, June 11th, 2018, 6 PM. We had a site visit at 5:30. We'll discuss that later. Right now, 6 PM, Thompson's Point wastewater disposal system ordinance. So get started. Is it best to, so we have the Schedule A, we have the leaseholder guidelines, and we have the ordinance itself. Should we talk from the ordinance first, or? Sure. So the red ink in our packet ones are the changes from the last meeting. Anybody have any issues with those? I think.
It's the changes since all the meetings.
Oh, it includes all of them, but
Yep.
the red ink, isn't the red ink? Oh, that's everything then, huh?
Everything that's been changed.
Oh, okay, from the original
adopted,
ordinance,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I'm not looking at the red one, but in section 401, 402, and 403,
Yep,
since we have now just a Schedule A, all the things that say Schedule A1, 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 or B1, the A1s need to be changed to an A.
right.
And in 403, you can strike out B1 because we don't have that section anymore.
Right. Oh, we missed all that. You're right. Okay, so 403 is deleted, right?
No, just change Schedule A1, where the sentence says Schedule A1 or B1, that should just say Schedule A
Okay, for all cases.
for all cases.
Okay,
So that occurs in section 401, in 402, and 403.
got it.
And then I wasn't really clear if you guys had decided that the Thompson's Point wastewater, the guidelines are going to be a totally separate document.
That was the consensus at the afternoon meeting we had, yeah.
Okay, so if that is the case, then Article 10 comes out,
What comes out?
Article 10.
where you're saying it's Appendix B.
Does everybody still feel that way, that it's, Article 10? Well, it recognizes the guidelines. So what do we?
It's not necessary to be in the ordinance. It's, the guidelines even take some of the sections from the ordinance and put them into the guidelines. And that's kind of why we did that, because it's a document for the leaseholders.
Okay. So you're suggesting we just take out section 10 total and rename 11 10, right?
Yep.
Everybody support that?
Then we're gonna change the section, we're gonna write, underneath we have section 1101 and 1102.
Right.
We're gonna change those to
1001,
1001 and 1002.
sure.
Is there anything in the ordinance that says there is guidelines that
Well,
should be
that's fine.
followed?
That's kind of what my point was. No,
No, but there should be something on the guidelines, should be like a disclaimer of some sorts on the bottom that says that the ordinance is the guiding point for these guidelines. So there's gonna be something in the guidelines that say they have to look at the ordinance if they need more clarification.
or if there's any conflict, the ordinance is priority.
Right.
Well, that's probably a question for our attorney. I was under the impression that if it's not part of an ordinance, we don't have the finding capabilities or enforcement capabilities. So if there's things in the guidelines that we wish to be considered enforceable, and they're not mentioned in the ordinance, I think I'm under the impression that there's nothing we can do about it. I haven't read through the guidelines yet. I don't know the spirit of the guidelines until we finish it, but if there's something in there that we're gonna say, if you violate these guidelines, you're gonna get fined.
These are just information. It's an abbreviated excerpt of the ordinance where we thought the
Okay.
landowners or the land
Yeah,
renters,
It's just kind of a
leaseholders.
handout. It's just kind of a handout.
So the ordinance is more specific?
Yes.
Right.
Okay, then there's no problem with it,
Okay,
that I see.
okay. So, you were making a point that in the guideline, we should have an advisory that there is an ordinance that,
Yeah, of some sort.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, you might be able to state it. a
yeah,
little
I'm
bit.
almost wondering if in the ordinance itself, I think with Mary, I think that is redundant. But at the same point, if you don't reference the guidelines in the ordinance, is that just now a lost document? And I'm just thinking out loud.
which is what happened before.
Yeah, so like we've yeah, in reviewing all of this, we've actually found a couple lost documents that Mary recovered, and I just wonder if you don't reference the guidelines specifically in here somewhere, is that going to be just a lost document, you know, X number of years down the road?
Well, that's, huh?
Just leave it in then.
But just to get rid of the last sentence of the current section 10 is incorporated herein, or leave it exactly the way it is. Then that becomes an attachment B, appendix B. So it can either be an appendix B,
Or if you actually, it really should, it should be mentioned in the ordinance, but it should be a separate, I don't think it should be appendix B because the guidelines may change. And we might want to add like something each year that like, depending on what's going on down there. And it would be something that I mail out to people with the bill. So I don't think you'd want to have it attached to the document because then you'd have to be amending the whole
so
freaking
just
thing.
delete the last sentence of 1001, the Thompson Point,
Just delete and attached as appendix B.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it'll say that TPS LMNO PURSTV is incorporated herein by reference,
Period.
period.
Okay, everybody's good with that one?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. What about Frank's point? Do we have to reference the ordinance someplace in the guidelines?
I think
I
it
think
should,
so.
I think it should be a two-way, I think it should be a two-way street.
Yeah, I agree.
So add something in the bottom, or? So these aren't numbered, so what do you want to call it? At the very end, this guideline, well, we're on the last page of the guideline now. This is by reference, what do we want to say? This ordinance.
The way it's the first paragraph, there was, I mean, not entirely, not exactly, but the initial first paragraph was meant to,
Yeah, maybe where it says the purpose of these guidelines is to assist leaseholders in understanding their rights and responsibilities.
Oh,
You
yeah.
leave something like that in there, and then you said reference shall be made to the Thompson's Point wastewater disposal system ordinance for
That's good.
regulations and more attorney language, but something, you know, some reference to this document.
So you
Regulation.
put that at the top before operating season, just the
Sure.
paragraph.
Yeah, I mean, it could almost be like the opening
Couple
paragraph.
sentence.
Purpose, you can just say purpose. And then say,
Chris, write down what you just said, so when I ask you tomorrow, you'll have it.
Yeah, so I think if you look at it, the second sentence that was striked out, so the purpose of these guidelines is to assist leaseholders to understand their rights and responsibilities as related to the wastewater system, and then period, and then it should say, reference to the Town of Charlotte Thompson's Point wastewater disposal system ordinance shall be made for clarifications pertaining to, I'm thinking out loud here,
Why don't, let's go back a bit. Let's just call this purpose, that's the underlining title, and then start it. These guidelines are to assist. So you don't need to say purpose again, it's redundant.
Yep.
So you just say, these guidelines are to assist leaseholders in understanding their rights and responsibility related to the wastewater system, period. Please, or say, refer to,
Why don't you just say the wastewater disposal ordinance, instead of just say the wastewater system?
yeah, as related to the Town of Charlotte Thompson's Point wastewater disposal ordinance. And that would clarify all of it, right there.
Done.
Yep.
so after the sentence, we said these guidelines are that, or where did you put your words?
I just looked at the ordinance, so I just saw wastewater ordinance and you were going that way anyway, so.
Yeah, so where it says as related to the wastewater system, strike out wastewater system and add in Town of Charlotte Thompson's Point wastewater disposal system ordinance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So on the Thompson's Point wastewater system leaseholder guidelines.
Yep.
So the one with the whole red,
Oh, all right.
and if you go to the first paragraph, second sentence. It's written on the first page, sorry.
Everything's. Oh, okay, the purpose of the guidelines is to assist the leaseholders.
Well, I was going to say the title is purpose.
Yeah.
Start the sentence, these guidelines are to assist. And just take the same words. Leaseholders in understanding their rights and responsibilities related to the wastewater system. What did you want?
well, wastewater system, the Thompson's Point wastewater
And you wanna
system
put in the full-
disposal ordinance.
Okay,
We'll put the whole thing in there.
okay.
That way these are guidelines,
Yeah,
and you
it's
have to, but it all
Water
has to follow the
system
ordinance.
Ordinance, okay. I got that. Okay,
Good.
anything else in the ordinance that is questioned?
The only thing I saw was there was a few, I mean, there were quite a few things that said low flow design. And I know we kind of defined it in a way.
I remember talking about it. There it is. If you go to section 402, we talk about low flow as an example.
And also section 207.
It's defined in 207.
Right.
Low flow design, yeah, defined.
And that's what we updated at the
Oh,
committee
yeah.
meeting last week.
Right, the 1.6
Yep.
gallons per flush, et cetera. All those are new, that's all new from the meeting.
So that section 402, section C, probably you need to take out Chris to check with Brian.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yep. I do wonder whether, at the end of 207, we added, all new and replacement devices must meet Energy Star standards, whether that actually should be included in 402.
I thought we took that out. I thought we took out Energy Star stuff.
Oh, is that right?
It's not in 402. 402D,
No, it's not. I'm wondering about, it's in 207.
right.
Or I thought it was, but maybe we took it out already.
Well, do we want that? part, that sentence, all new and replacement devices must meet?
Are we gonna do that, or are we gonna do the low-flow design?
Oh, well, we've changed terminology, is that your,
Well, no, I mean, we're defining low-flow design in 207.
right? But then we use, at the end of 207, we use the term Energy Star.
Right, and I'm totally,
Did we take it out?
I thought you guys did take it out.
I thought we took it out because we put in the numbers.
Yeah, it's kind of,
Right,
it's kind of redundant, isn't it?
yeah, because we put in the numbers and then,
Okay, so that comes out on 207.
Right, but on 402, D, it says only low-flow design dishwashers may be installed. But above it, it says all plumbing fixtures and appliances incorporated low-flow design as defined in section 207. So why do we even
so
have
you don't even need.
Why do we-
D
D?
can be deleted.
403 has the A and B1 thing going
I'm just
on.
going to say Schedule A, otherwise it stays.
Right. Yep.
This is kind of an odd, different question, but there's no date, right, on the ordinance. And there's really nothing on Schedule A that would separate it from the old Schedule A. So I know at one of the earlier meetings, we went to A1, so A1 would supersede A. And I'm just wondering if there's a benefit to that or dating both of them last revised or something. Would there, do you think there'd be any confusion? Maybe Mary would know. So if we have this document, the ordinance, and it references Schedule A, do you think there's anybody that would ever refer to the old Schedule A and not the current Schedule A? Seen as not dated?
We could put a date, so we need to put a date on our ordinance.
Yeah.
The date it's signed will be,
Yeah.
and then you're saying,
And do the same thing, and do the same thing with the schedule.
I mean, honestly, in the past, one ordinance had Schedule A, one had A1, then the next one went back to, they were
I just
all-
didn't know, would it make sense to put when this is, when your final review's done and put, you know, June of 2018 on both of them? And then you know,
I think we should, Schedule A, on the title, just put, like you said,
Yeah,
June
last
2018.
revised.
Re-
the
re-
last revised 2000.
Revised 2008, June 2018.
Yeah.
That's good. And we'll do the same thing. We can do it in the heading or look at signatures. I'd say revision, same thing, June 2018 on the top of the ordinance.
The guidelines need a date?
Huh?
Should we put a date on the guidelines?
We haven't yet, but we should. And the whole package is kind of complete. Revision June 2018. Good.
Now, on the, what is the section, is it 503? You just gotta take out something, it says described substances. I mean, we took out all the descriptions.
So I'm looking at the clean copy.
So it says no person shall discharge or cause to be discharged. I would say following substances, or just take out following and describe and say substances, materials, waters, and waste. Just take out
Because there's no
those,
following.
because there's no following anymore.
Must be charged. Shall the charge cause to be discharged. Substances, just so you take out the word following and described.
Right,
So substances, materials, waters, or waste, if it appears likely in the opinion of the commission, such words can harm the public, yeah. So take out the 2 words following describe.
Right.
Looks good. Charge. Subsidy, yes?
Yeah. Yep.
Getting wild.
Where's Matt when you need him?
All right. Five oh six talks about low flow design, and section 402 talks about low flow design. Is 506 redundant? Every structure connected to the public shall be equipped with plain connections of low flow design.
Seems redundant.
And they use the same word, plumbing fixtures and appliance incorporate low flow design. So I propose that we take out 506. Everybody agree with that?
Mm-hmm.
And then 507 becomes 506.
I guess the only thing I wonder, and I'm not necessarily a fan of this organization, but the way it's organized, Article 4 is capacity, and Article 5 is use. So I guess my interpretation of that is Article 4 is saying the system only has capacity for fixtures that are low flow design, and then Article 5 says if you're using the system, you can only use low flow design. So it is redundant, but it's sort of different audiences, maybe. But if it's the will to delete it, or you can start and ask the attorney or whatever.
I was thinking you could combine 5 and 6 and say, or what would you say? 4 and, you could combine 4 and 5. Capacity of public sewer and use of public sewer, and then just renumber them.
Yeah, maybe somehow those 2 articles can be combined.
Because we're taking so much out.
Yeah.
That's true. So why don't you leave a 506 in and just see if the attorney thinks that's redundant?
Okay.
Okay, anything more on? What section has the connections in? Is that clear now?
303, 304.
303. The following lots apply. 2, 1 through 2 are located on Lanes Lane. Okay, that, you corrected the 304. It shall apply to lot 204 at such time becomes seasonal, okay? So everybody's got 10 years. Okay. got the connection fee prorated. No, that's the prorated depreciation cost of the original construction. And then you have the 20-year payback, as Matt suggested, the prorated depreciated cost. So it's 10,500 over a 20-year period. Okay. Yep.
604.
604.
Should that say something else besides operate the public sewer? Because we're not operating it all year. It should be the money part, not the actual facility part.
Yeah, that's even in there.
And I'm fine with it being in there, but it should state that the commissioners shall, I mean, not only the commissioners do it, but shall operate the accounting,
Yeah,
or something like that.
the accounting,
The accounting for the public sewer for fiscal year that will begin on July
I
1st.
think that's better.
Or just tag it on the end of 605, associated with the public sewer fiscal year beginning July 1 and ending June
Yeah.
30.
Okay?
So take out 604 and add it to 605.
Say
This-
what?
Just add that it's
Just say
based on the fiscal year,
Yeah,
July 1 through June 30.
Okay.
we'll have you guys operating that thing all year long.
And so then the other numbers, so 604,
So 605 becomes
Six-
604.
right. That's it. Want to look at everybody, look at Schedule A, is that everybody pleased with the way Schedule A has been done now?
Schedule A is a piece of art.
Yeah.
I
Mary
think it,
gets credit for all the many updates. And then we also, I just showed Steve and Mary today, but what we did, which is pretty simple, is we took the original Thompson's Point map, which has all the original camp owners, and we can just, this is right in PDF, so anybody can edit it, but it'll have the lot number, the current camp owner, and the 911 address. So that way, when Steve references the original camp owner and a lot, we can at least know who the new owner is and also 911 address. So this will be consistent with Schedule A, and it'll also be consistent when Steve pumps the septic tanks in the fall, and we're looking at sludge depths. So this will kind of be not a document, but a working tool for Mary and Steve in our office indeed.
That's great, Chris. Really good.
and what do the letters mean again? You have line, oh, collection line A, so these are different lines, connection line B, C, D, and then you get to Lane's Lane, they're just Lane's Lane. That's the way you guys want it?
Should be a line number on the original plans.
Well, the original Schedule A kept labeled Lane's Lane as not a number, as a name. So that's why that was carried over like that.
Okay.
Is it part of a collection line?
Yeah, it is.
Well, it attaches
It
to
attaches to
Fort Davis and,
Flat Rock, yeah.
so it attaches to line B.
Yep, it attaches to line.
But then you lose your identity of Lane's Lane that we were
Yeah.
following.
It almost seems like you leave Lane's Lane separate, and then
Yeah.
at some point in the future, if Lane's Lane is fully connected, and all the camps are connected, then maybe you connect Lane's Lane and B and combine them.
Yep. So you guys are all good with that? You're gonna put a date on it, we said revised June 2018.
Yep.
So I'm looking at, if that's good, I'm looking at guidelines. We have Schedule A1 and B1 and guidelines under prohibited discharges. We should change that to A.
So this document is gonna be mailed out to people separately from the ordinance, so Dean and I were chatting, and where it says, A, no increase in occupancy is defined in sections 201 and 208, that doesn't really make sense, because they're not gonna have the ordinance in their mailing. So 201 and 208 basically say there's no increase in bedrooms.
So I made those specific edits on this version.
201 and 208 are in the ordinance.
Right, but it's, the average camper isn't gonna look at the ordinance, they're gonna look
Right,
at the
but that's where it should state that on here. If you're gonna say section 201 and 208, you should put
Yeah.
according to the ordinance.
Oh, after bedrooms?
No increase in occupancy as defined in sections 201 and 208. It should say reference.
Yeah, as defined in the ordinance
as
and
def-
indirect discharge permit, if you wanted to. I mean,
At least the ordinance,
Yeah.
and the ordinance will lead them to a discharge permit. If somebody gets this, they're not gonna know what 201 or 208 is.
Right,
And
that's
where,
why
and
we're defining it. 201 and 208 basically define occupancy as, where is it?
Well, 201 uses the word bedroom.
And 208 says occupancy shall carry the same meaning as bedroom. So why don't you just say, isn't that what you're saying? No increase in bedrooms are allowed? If it says no increase in occupancy, and occupancy is defined as a bedroom,
right, but if somebody looks at this, if I'm a new person, I look at this and I say, section 201, 208, I'm looking in this paper you gave me for 201 and
yeah, so
208.
Mary's saying delete 201 and 208 and just put bedrooms in there.
On the
In
guidelines,
the guidelines only.
right.
So
guidelines,
the-
not on the
the
ordinance, on the
yeah.
guidelines.
Right, okay.
Bedrooms.
Just like what Dean has written.
No increase in bedrooms, okay.
And actually, the very first sentence says any structure as defined herein, probably take out as defined herein, because
Okay,
I don't think we defined it.
yep. See, Chris, or check with Brian, we can take that out?
Take that out?
And same with this one, we can take out section D because all plumbing fixtures and appliances include low-flow design dishwashers. But then in this document, you probably would want to say, where you say incorporate low-flow design, you might want to say, unless it's somewhere else in here, what that is, 1.6 gallons per toilet.
Yeah. You could
That was,
take it out of the text here.
Take it out of what it says in
that's
207 and translate
in
it.
here. On the next page, it says the 3.5.
Okay, so we don't need to,
No,
we just say all plumbing, but we can take out D because that's like we did in the ordinance.
yep.
So we're gonna do what now? They're gonna take what?
We're just gonna take out section D, just like we did in the ordinance,
Okay.
because it's repetitive.
And also the section 207,
Yes.
Yes.
Yep. Okay, the language down here says, next paragraph one up from the bottom, the following, we don't have the follow.
That's
Nope.
it.
No personal discharge or cause
The following described.
Change that to A instead of the following.
any substances, material. You don't need the word described, right?
No.
Cause to be charged, just Upwards or discharge or cause to be discharged, any substances, materials, water be harmful. Yeah, so just get rid of the 3 words. The following described and put any.
Is there a place where it says the gallons?
Yeah.
The next one where it says requirements for fixtures.
It's on requirements for fixtures on the top of the next page.
So actually, before we go there, you wanted to add the use of garbage disposals is prohibited?
Yeah.
Put that in one of the letters that we took out.
No, just add it into that.
Right, added into requirement for fixtures.
Oh,
That was the one sentence in the old guidelines for prohibited discharges. That was the one sentence that y'all wanted to keep.
Right. On page, top of page
Right there.
2.
Kath, if you look up here. Right after no person shall discharge or cause to be discharged any described substances.
so you can insert a sentence, no garbage disposals are allowed.
Right. Does that work? So,
I would write the installation or use. The
So-
installation or use, or and use. You don't even want them installed. Of the garbage disposals. Not just the use of garbage disposals.
I just had the word no garbage disposals are allowed.
That's fine. I like the explanation of the leak detection. That's good.
What does what's step stand for again?
That's the pump station at each camp.
Is that a short? Is that, what does it stand for?
You know, it's a, what is it? It's a pump station, septic tank combined, so they call them step tank.
Septic tank effluent pump station.
So we needed to find that someplace?
It is in the original
It's in the ordinance.
Yeah, we get
Okay.
to that. It's in section. Section 217. So septic tank and effluent pump station. That's in the ordinance.
So we say, in the guidelines, do we need to say, spell it out, or say, refer to Article 217, or what do you want to do? If they're just reading this guideline, they may not know what it means. I would put in parentheses what it stands for, it's my vote. In the guidelines.
Yep.
Is that all right? Anybody have anything else on this? So, do we make any motions here, or do we just authorize you to have a lawyer review this at this time? Want a motion to do that?
Hold your horses there, fella.
Oh, am I going too fast?
We have an appendix, we have an appendix, something or other. You attached the wastewater committee, which we don't have a copy of that.
I thought we already gone over that, no? Did we
Huh?
not? Did we not already do that?
Was that gonna be Appendix B then?
Yeah, there
You're
it is,
right.
section 802, herein by reference and attached as appendix A. That's how y'all wanted it.
Oh, this is Thompson's Point Advisory Committee roles and responsibilities? Oh, so that becomes, it's referenced, which section?
802. So I don't think that's been completed yet. I think we talked about it and we said what we wanted in it, but I don't know that it's done.
So we have, I don't know if this is the original or we adapted it, Thompson's Point. First of all, it ought to be called, it ought to be called Attachment B, shouldn't it?
No, you call it appendix A.
So we're gonna have a Schedule A and Appendix A. Okay, so it's Appendix A? A, and it's revised June 2018.
No, you don't have to do that.
We don't?
It's part of this ordinance, so whenever you sign and date this, the Thompson's Point Wastewater Advisory Committee rules and whatever the heck it is, it will be done the same date.
Let me make copies, 'cause I don't think anyone has them. Oh. Okay.
So we didn't go over this at all? I sort of
We went
remember.
over it once, but we didn't, I don't know if we finished it. We went over it, it was revised on 5/29.
These big copies.
Okay. So I happened to find my old copy.
Oh, here we go. Here's the old one. And here's the new one. You're right, we didn't make the changes. I have some notes on it from, like you just said, May 22nd.
Yeah, I had it put down here.
So what we said was,
I had Appendix A put on top.
we're gonna get rid of the makeup because all of that's in the ordinance.
Right.
We're gonna open it saying, follow open meeting rules. And then it talks about the open meeting rules, quorum of 3 is required. Times. Oh, this is appendix A, it's,
Is that updated or is that just a copy of?
It has, dates
There, one.
oh, So Dean, I have that in my notes, all that whole first section A, after the first paragraph is deleted, and says, follow open meeting rules.
Right.
Then a majority vote is required to forward proposals, and that stays in. And then on 11, your note and my note both say, review, appeals by leaseholders for building. Also, that one of their duties is review appeals.
Yeah, that provision was taken out of the guidelines, I think. The last paragraph.
Is that 11? Oh,
In the guidelines, there was a paragraph.
but I think we can just, can we just say review appeals by leaseholders for building adjustments and propose amendments to the commission where appropriate?
Sure.
And then you're not referencing anything else. So 11 would just say, review appeals by leaseholders for billing and adjustments and proposed adjustments to the commission where appropriate. And that just kind of stands alone.
So for billing adjustments and proposed, what is that?
That sounds stupid, to be honest.
Maybe there was something else that
Get rid of the
was,
word of proposed.
Well, it sounds like the leaseholders are proposing adjustments.
Well, they may have a negotiating position.
No.
billing.
But get rid of the word proposed. Billing, and adjustments, they use it twice.
Right.
Review appeals by leaseholders for billing adjustments to the commission where appropriate. Does that make
What
sense?
are you trying to say?
Huh?
What are you trying to say?
What I just read.
Do you want the wastewater, the Thompson's Point wastewater advisory committee to handle your appeals of leaseholders? Or they have to come in front of the select board?
The way it would work is they would come before I would, if there was something difficult that the wastewater committee couldn't just easily handle by, I don't know, rereading a meter or doing whatever has to be done, then ultimately it comes before the select board. I mean, everything comes before the select board, right?
So then why do you have a two-step process? The wastewater advisory committee, step one. If not resolved, pass to the commission where appropriate.
Let's just take that whole thing out.
What do you do if there's an appeal? We've had them before, remember your meters, people claimed they didn't use that much water and nobody turned off the faucet and it went for,
A week.
But I wonder though, so if you go to the first page, it says the majority vote is required to forward proposals to the select board. So does that kind of cover it, that the committee would forward that on to you guys?
In the ordinance, doesn't it say that the commissioners handle all that?
what Chris is saying is, all these 11 items goes before the advisory committee for adjudication, and majority vote is required before forwarding to the select board. Is that what, I mean, it's just,
No,
majority votes required to forward proposals to select board. Acting as a sewer commission.
I mean, ultimately, the committee meets.
Right,
There's always one member of the select board.
right.
They vote like we did on last week. I mean,
Yep.
Steve and I are not voting, but the committee members that do vote, they vote and recommend that that be presented to the select board for approval. Right, so ultimately, the committee really doesn't approve anything final. It's you guys have the final say on all those items.
When you have in your committee meetings to discuss general operations and address concerns.
What number is that?
B3.
So you're kind of saying 11 is
Unnecessary.
unnecessary, it'll happen anyway?
Yeah. It's part of the role. Already stated. Three, what about, I don't know about three, you have a dollar, not to exceed $8,000 per incident?
see, in our ordinance that was taken out,
We took out money. Maximum.
it took out the leaseholder appeals part, and it says a leaseholder may appeal any billing or charge associated with the use of Thompson's Point wastewater system. Appeals must be in writing and must be addressed to the chair of the Thompson's Point wastewater advisory
That was
committee.
deleted.
Right,
I would think you'd want,
but, well, can we put that in, on number 11?
I would think you'd want the committee to review it before it gets to the select board.
Well, down in
So if you
1302
just say
that was
review
done.
appeals by leaseholders. Period.
You know, review appeal by leaseholders for building adjustments prior to forwarding to commission or something.
Or maybe it's not billing adjustment, maybe who knows what it is. It's just the commission reviews it. So you review appeals by leaseholders,
For bill, period,
period.
okay?
Because like you said, that once the committee is supposed to
Pass it along.
forward recommendations, so you would just have period. Review appeals.
So committee meetings category becomes A, and committee responsibilities become B, based on deleting the original A.
But don't you think you should take out 3? I mean, you're already, you shouldn't have you shouldn't have a dollar amount in there, A. And you're already saying that you're responsible for preparing the budget, the operating and the capital. You're already doing 3 when you're doing 1 and 2 and 4.
True, I guess. Is that redundant, 1 and 3?
What was the purpose of, I'm just thinking, what was the purpose of the 8,000? So like if Steve has minor repairs, that can be approved by the committee without going from the select board? Is that the way you guys are reading that?
I don't know why that's there.
When you want to spend money, do you go to the,
We usually start at Dean, he schedules a meeting, then we have our meeting, and then you guys meet on.
His expenses, his operating expenses are within his budget. He says, I want this much for pumps, and I want this much for meters, and I want this much because I'm gonna do this on North Shore Road, and then these are the capital expenses I want. I'm gonna spend 10,000 on this and this and this. And that's how we come up with the fees. That's how he sends the bill in, and I can see on the budget, that's an operating expense or that's a capital expense. If there's something extraordinary or something unusual, then, you know, you would it's signed off by the select board anyways, because it ultimately comes to you.
So an example would be, say, with the frozen lines, what happened? The committee approved that?
Maybe they approved the budget to steam lines because there's no way they were gonna be open in time unless we did steam the lines.
And that was in the middle of the fiscal year. That was in April or March?
And then it came to the select board and you signed off on it.
So you're saying 3 on the back page is unnecessary, I guess? Everybody,
Or
I think
don't-
it's covered in other places and it's
Covered in other
dangerous
places.
to put a dollar amount in there.
okay. Anything else?
So was 11 deleted? Was that?
No, it is 11 now says, review appeals by leaseholders. Period.
Okay. Yes.
Is it too soon to say we pass this on for the attorney to review now, Mary?
I think you should make all the changes. Send the complete document with all the appendixes and Schedule As and whatnots. After all the changes are made, send them to the attorney and then
Okay.
there you go.
Okay. Everybody agree with that? So we'll make the changes, send it to the attorney, and then we can, when the next time we meet, you'll have to tell us the approval process then.
Right,
Not quite a hearing, but
right.
okay.
Thank you, Steve and Chris.
Do these folks have to come back for the next meeting if,
If there are any questions, I mean, probably, yeah.
huh?
Probably, yes.
So,
Well, we might be a couple meetings out for the attorney to
Yeah.
review it.
oh,
It might not be the next meeting.
No.
I'm assuming it'll take a while for the attorney to
okay,
review it.
could be a couple of meetings.
So just let us know whenever it's scheduled and we'll,
Okay,
Come back and hang out.
sounds good. Thank you, guys.
thank you.
Thanks.
These your notes or my notes? These are. Close enough. Okay, so we're on schedule. Are there adjustments to the agenda?
Yes, please add Thompson's Point lease to J.C. and Valerie Bebuck. And I believe Christina is going to be in to discuss purchase of chairs for the select board.
Okay,
Yes.
now Matt said last meeting that he was close to being able to get a good set of used chairs because of a renovation of an office or something. But I don't know any more on that than what he said at the meeting. So let's see what Christina has when she brings it up, I guess. Public comments? Select board updates? KR Properties appeal?
I can do that. The attorney for KR Properties has made a proposal for a resolution to the appeal that initially we may be able to try without a mediator. If that doesn't work, then we would use a mediator. If that doesn't work, then we go to court. So I was wondering if certain select board members want to participate in that discussion and possibly look at a date for doing that this week or next week for an initial meeting with
Okay.
the attorney and then Care Properties.
What's the, I mean, I could be available, somebody, how many you want, at least two?
Sure.
Sure.
Anybody else want?
I expressed
I
interest.
might have a conflict of interest.
Two is enough, otherwise you have to warn a meeting, unless you want to,
When is it?
we don't know yet.
It'll be next week.
We're looking for a date when whoever is participating can make it.
I mean, a date among the parties here right now?
Just this, I think first you would probably want to talk to the attorney and then meet eventually with Care Properties. This talk with the attorney could be by phone or in person.
He would be part of the meeting, or he'd be prior to the meeting,
It would be a meeting with the attorney,
on the phone?
either on the phone or in person, whichever you prefer.
I don't know if we gotta convolute it with having a quorum.
Okay, I mean, you can do it some afternoon? I mean, if you want to do it in my place, I don't care.
I mean, that's fine. I can be a part of it. That's fine.
So Fritz and Frank then? Then
Okay,
it's not a quorum? And you can just do it as you guys resolve it, okay?
do you prefer to do it by phone or in person?
It's up to Fritz, either way.
I don't care. It's just as easy to come in here and talk on the phone.
Is there a good time, a good date?
When do you wanna do it, Fritz?
I don't care. Next week's?
Sooner the better.
Tomorrow morning?
Tomorrow morning's good.
Tomorrow morning? 9 o'clock?
Sure.
Okay?
Thanks.
I have a couple of items for updates. The station commander for the state police, Lieutenant Bob Lucas, has just said he'd be willing to come here, just meet and talk about issues. And what I'd like to do is coordinate a meeting with him and talk about the issue of data and information we may have about properties that have been trespassed upon or home invasions. And I would just like to schedule that some afternoon, have him come down, kind of talk to us informally, see what ideas we could have. If there's a lot of break-ins, we had a resident complained, as you know, a couple of weeks ago. So I was going to call him down and see what his ideas are. Everybody good with that? Anybody else want to join?
You're talking about that
Yes.
group of people?
Holmes Avenue, Holmes Road, there was a break-in, and would like to invite,
There's a break-in or just the people
property,
camped
excuse
on?
me, property. They're
Property.
camping out, right.
And have we had many complaints?
Well, that's what I don't know. He's really asked us, the property owners asked us to see what the data might be, the fact that Lieutenant Lucas is willing to come down. I'd ask him in advance to bring any data, not speed issues, but other issues that come to his office for Charlotte, and kind of take a look at it.
I don't think it's necessary, but
I feel an obligation to the taxpayer, at least try to satisfy, see if there are other things we can do. That was a pretty scary situation. I don't know if you've heard the full report.
wow, there's a few different ways to hear that, I guess.
So you're okay if I do that?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. I'll let you know when it is. If you want to attend, let us know. If there's more than two of us, we can warn it. So I'll do that. The other update is Peter Trono, I sent you a letter that he asked me what we're doing about the generators, and I told him which was approved at town meeting. I told him we're not into the new fiscal year, we haven't started the process yet. So, which would create,
I haven't done anything yet. I have to contact, at least, well, to get an RFP, I need to talk to a couple of different people because there's varieties as to what size generators we need, so I want to make sure the RFP has a specific size. So I'm going to talk to the two people that gave us bids, and if I can't get a reasonable answer, Peter recommended consulting an engineer.
right.
I'm not necessarily sure that we need to go to an electric engineer to compare statistics on kilowatt use. But we'll see what kind of answer I get from the two contractors that gave us bids.
Okay,
There's two other things on there that I'll address while I'm going on here. There was a potential conflict of interest again for me because I voted on a driveway on Guinea Road. Just so we know the issues, in 2015, I have two lots on Guinea Road. In 2015, I applied for a lot line adjustment, made one lot bigger, one lot smaller, and then applied for a driveway for the second lot. We had the site visit, the select board voted. I recused myself from that vote because it was my driveway. 3 years later, the permit has expired, and we voted recently to extend the permit. I saw no reason to recuse myself for that because it was an existing permit. But according to our policy, when someone points out there is a potential, I put it out there for discussion. So if people want to put it on a select board agenda, I can come up with all the paperwork and the votes and everything else, or if you think there's no conflict there, we'll just
have we
consider it
already-
discussed.
Property anymore. You sold it to somebody else.
Yes, the select board,
So you're just doing.
the
what you
four
would
of
do for
you,
anyone.
not me, approved the driveway access in 2015. I
remember that.
recused myself from that. And then, basically it expired, and then a month or so ago, they wanted to start construction and had to renew or reissue, I don't know what our terms are for the permit.
So do we need to vote again, is that, or
I don't know.
do you
I'm
know what
just,
the
There's no
requirements are?
conflict in interest,
We
in my
already-
opinion.
we already voted
what you're
again to
supposed to
approve it,
do.
but the point is that I
Do you recall
voted.
the vote on that, Dean?
Yeah, I was wondering that. This was the last meeting, and I'm wondering how many were present. I think all five were
All of us.
present, so if Fritz wasn't part of that vote, it would still be.
Wouldn't change the
It wouldn't
vote.
change the outcome.
So we approved it.
That's my recollection, is that whether Fritz had voted or not, it was going to be passed. And I don't believe it was a conflict.
Okay, so there's nothing more to be done then,
As far as I'm concerned, there isn't.
okay?
As long as the board's okay with that. And he also mentioned something about the air packs. There have been presentations and sample air packs given by 3 companies, MSD, Scott, and Interspiro. There is a committee on the department to which I am not part of, the committee who is evaluating the air packs. And actually, Zach Trono is on that committee, so
Yeah. And
he
Trevor
should be,
Gavin.
he should be able to update Dad, how's it going? Because I just know that they got 3 bidders. And they were hoping to have a house to burn down for practice where they could evaluate them in a real environment. And that is still up in the air.
And we'll know what the cost is once you select.
Yeah.
Cost and
Yeah, there,
capability.
you know, it's kind of like comparing Ford, Chevy, and Chrysler. Everybody's got something a little different, so you have to,
I know one of their things was they were talking about trying to get something that was, that was the same or as neighboring towns.
there's 2, the Scott and the MSD. I think Ferrisburg has one, and Shelburne and Heinsberg have the other.
Right.
So that's part of the evaluation of the committee. So they'll come up with a recommendation, which I can present when it happens, or it'll end up on the counter like the truck bids did.
Yep.
So,
Okay.
and the only other thing is we talked about it historically was a spiller pays ordinance. And I'd like to get that on an agenda sometime so we can discuss the attorney's questions.
Okay.
That's basically the ordinance that says if you dump toxic stuff, you violated an ordinance
From the town.
from the town and you'll have to pay, which apparently makes insurance companies happier and quicker at responding.
So I think what the attorney's response or feedback was, is that we need to amend the memorandum of agreement between the town and fire and rescue to say that cleanup of hazardous waste is a principal service or a primary service that CVFRS provides the town. And that way, since they're providing that service to the
Yeah,
town.
we should talk about that because you don't want to say they're the ones responsible for cleaning it up, responsible for coordinating it or something like that. So that's why it should probably be at a meeting so I can get the chief here to give his input.
And his fourth item on his letter was the speed cart. It's not being used. I think it's in Junior's.
No,
No,
Where's
it's down at, it's down at Trono's barn on.
Oh, it is right now?
On Heinsberg
That's
Road.
what he asked for. Oh, good. So somebody already did that.
well,
Thank you.
Junior, all you gotta do is call Junior
It
when
gets
you want
done.
it moved to a different spot.
Okay.
You got
That's what I
stuck with
heard.
it.
Okay, any more updates?
Oops.
Go ahead,
You
Christine.
suggested I bring this up during the select board updates. I was invited by WB Mason to attend a furniture sale that they're having. The one member who said he was going to get chairs for you is not here, but some of the sale prices, I mean, they range from $59 up to $200. And I was wondering if this is something you guys might look at. It's a one-day only, and if you authorize me to go down and just
Let's
pick
do
them
it.
out and get 7 chairs, I mean, I could get a chair for as low as $59 a piece with this sale.
Okay, do it.
So,
But there's, I mean, you pay $59 and you get a $59 chair.
Oh, yes.
well,
we
that's
want
what,
that.
so the regular price on it is normally, I think this one's like normally $139 and it's on sale for $59 that one day. That's the whole point, why it's a one-day, big, huge blowout sale that they have
What day is this sale?
Thursday, 8:30 to 5,
Where?
right at the WB Mason shop on Shelburne Road. You guys are more than welcome if you
You know, I'd like to
want
see the chairs because we were looking at $200 chairs before and they had a maximum weight of 200 pounds.
All these have 250 right now in the brochure that he gave me, and that's part of the reason why I was bringing this up is because you guys were looking at $200 chairs.
Yeah.
These chairs are a lot more doable with the discount that they're having for the one day only. So if this is something you want to browse at, if you want to meet and we go down together, you
I'd
just
be happy to
inform
do
me.
that. I'd be happy to do that.
Okay?
You can pick mine out.
I just want to get, is there another scale up besides a $59 chair?
Well, yes,
There's a
she's not saying
$65
she's
chair,
gonna
there's
buy
a,
it.
there's a few chairs.
You
Okay.
have a range.
Yeah, so
Pick
if
the
you
right
guys want to make
price.
some sort of a motion, or if you just kind of want to go with it.
Well, it's in the budget, I believe, isn't it?
Yep. Whatever you
I have
think
no
is the
part of
best
it.
one,
Spending
you
the money
buy
is
it.
all you guys. I'm finding a way that we could spend less, so I'm just trying to encourage that.
I'll go be Thursday morning if you want.
Okay?
Is that okay with people?
Buy some good chairs.
Yeah, buy some good chairs, is what I,
Okay?
okay? It's in the budget, right? We don't need a motion?
I think we're using the improvement and repair fund. I had a quick item.
Okay, and updates?
Yeah,
I'll call you about a time. I think we have a webinar going on Thursday morning, per
Okay.
se, so maybe it'll be a little later in the morning,
fine.
but I'll call you.
I'm around on Thursdays.
I'm just going to be out of town starting June 21st through July 7th, and I'll miss the next select board meeting on July 25th. June 21st.
Tell me the dates one more time.
June 21st, I'll be in for a half day, and then back back on July 9th.
July 9th?
Right.
Okay. Any more updates? Okay. Highway permit review. A couple of folks went out there. Somebody want to speak to it?
The applicant is here, all three of them. You can come forward.
Sure, come on forward.
So these are two permit applications for two locations on Mount Philo Road. One is at a location which is at the southern end of the Mansfield property, which is, my mom is under contract to purchase. And we did actually, we are not the owners, but we did include a letter from all 5 owners authorizing us to file and represent all permits. The southern access, which is shown here with a yellow mark, is at the southeastern corner of the property.
That's Lot B?
That is, would serve Lot B as well as serve as an agricultural access to Lot A. That access is actually currently permitted. There was a prior applicant who intended to develop the property but withdrew his application just before his final review. But it expires, I think, in July. And so we anticipate that we would not be through the planning commission process until closer to the end of the summer. So we are applying to not to basically either to amend it or whatever needs to be done procedurally in order to get that approved. That access was originally meant to go up to a house, which would be located, actually it would have been located slightly further east on the property for the prior applicant. He withdrew his application because he wanted to build in the center of a Class 2 wetland. So this access would not go that far because we are not trying to tell any purchaser of Lot B where they would need to have their driveway enter into the lot. We would anticipate that the access would go somewhere up until the end of the border on the west side of that property.
Let me ask you, if you're going to renew, is renewing the permit same as the previous permit?
Yes, I think as far as we understand in terms of the curb cut itself, it's essentially the
That's
same.
what we're interested in.
Right, right.
So it's the same for that? Yeah, we're not in the planning commission part, we're
Right.
only in the curb cut part.
Right,
So it's, do you want to renew that one?
yes.
Yes.
And then the other one is?
And then the second one is on the northern end of the property, so that would serve a second lot that's being developed, which is Lot C.
Yeah.
And then would also serve the driveway, which would go to the building envelope, which you see sort of this irregularly shaped envelope here. And we would have preferred to just have the access go at the same as Lot B. Unfortunately, there is a very large Class 2 wetland which is where the prior applicant actually wanted to build. And that has 2 fingers that extend all the way onto the Hinsdale, the Nordic Farms property to the south, as well as there is a small Class 2 wetland that runs along the hedgerow in the field and also goes into the Hinsdale property, and that's a presumptive Class 2 because of its size and because of its potential hydrological connection with the larger one. So A&R, under its new wetland rules, has said that because we can avoid any impact to Class 2 wetlands by going through the other end, we are obligated to do that. So we can't get to the second step of mitigation because those impacts to those wetlands are avoidable. So that is why our second curb cut would also serve, Lot A would serve the residents on Lot A. Our concern is that that driveway, while we have the same situation on the property where we live now, and the farmer just crosses that portion of the driveway, we know that there are situations, depending on equipment, where that could become a problem. And so we'd like to have that second access so that the farmer who is, the LeBerges who currently farm this property, as well as the property to the north, would continue to have access on the southern part of the property.
Okay, well, let me just ask, so what we do, we have a motion, and then we see there's comments from anybody that visited, so,
Can I just make one comment?
Sure.
Because we did receive a note that the southerly curb cut did not meet Rule B71 of the V-Trans rules. However, we notified Otter Creek Engineering, which did the engineering, and I have updated plans which actually correct that problem. So they had been primarily concerned about other issues and had just overlooked. They were looking at the grading and other things, and so they had overlooked that and have corrected it. And Dean, I have that on a flash for you as well.
okay. So there are two requests. Do you want to do them separately? Come on, you were there, so,
You just approve them both. It's,
okay, go ahead.
the other one's redundant. So I guess it would be a motion to approve the applicant for highway access at 700 Mount Philo Road. We actually would need two addresses, or,
There will be two addresses. Currently, it's just 700.
okay.
There was a number given for the highway access that exists, but because that driveway goes all the way up, I wasn't sure what happens to that
Well, it's-
911
it's-
address, so I didn't put it in.
Yeah, it's delineated here by highway application permit 18-05 and 18-06.
Second.
Yeah, that's seconded. Junior, any comments? Oh, you want to go
Yeah,
first, Dean?
The recommendation is for culverts in each access, 15 inches diameter, 30 foot in length. The site distance appears to be 500 feet both ways for both accesses. I actually didn't notice, but I don't believe there are any large trees, but the tree warden is here, and I would ask that that just be looked at to see if there are any trees that would be removed. If there are any trees to be removed, that they be removed with tree warden's permission.
I think we can probably only attest to the ones that would be on our side of the property line, but I do just want to be honest and note that there is, has been a concern, and that the driveway be placed not, so outside of the crown of the trees in order to not damage any of the trees in the hedgerow. And there was a public comment by Clark Hinsdale regarding that he wants to be sure that that's a condition of our permit. So I just want to mention that in case there's any conflict
I don't think that comment was submitted to the select board. I mean, if you want to make that a condition, that's fine, but I don't think we received that directly.
I mean, I think I just want to be sure it's, when you're saying that, it means in the public right-of-way, that would be something that would be required anyway. In other words, I don't want to commit to cutting down trees that I know could become a problem with a neighbor, unless it's something that's,
He was talking about the frontage road,
right, okay.
not the side.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so it would be on the front, okay,
Yeah.
okay, all right, that's no problem. Sorry.
Just get it, I mean, there's a bunch of trees that are gonna have to cut some down, so.
Yeah,
It's just so you have the site view to get in and out. That's all, and those are in the public right of way.
Okay, perfect.
Anything else, Junior, then? So, anybody else have any comments, questions? All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. You're set. Thank you. Reappoint the tree warden. Mark, come forward and
Volunteer again.
tell us.
Tell us why you love to do this.
Why you wanna be appointed for life?
Well, I'm not, I don't think I'm agreeing to that, but I'll consider another term. I think we've been doing a fairly good job with the tree warden thing, in large part thanks to a lot of people who stepped up to help out, particularly Sue Smith, who's been a real ace deputy tree warden. We're in the middle of planning for the emerald ash borer. So I don't know if Matt has been able to brief you guys on that, but if I could, I'd like to spend some of the time giving you a brief on what we're doing with Emerald Ash Borer. But I want to give you guys a chance too to ask questions that might be relevant to my.
That's probably the hottest topic, right?
Yeah, it is. It is.
So this is a 1 year, ending in 2019, so it's a 1 year appointment for you. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So we have a team of people who've been organized to help with the thing that we're calling the Emerald Ash Borer Preparedness Plan. We've started to organize an actual plan, so we're putting stuff on paper, and I can make this available to you guys in a read version of our organization. It's on a document that I can provide to you. The basic, there are two basic elements to what we're looking at. One is that there is going to be a requirement to remove a lot of ash trees. So we're thinking about preemptive removal of live trees along the public right-of-way, and then also eventually probably removal of trees that are impacted by the emerald ash borer and are dead or dying. And the other part is that we'd like to, we have a plan or an idea to have a town-wide program for chemical treatment of select ash trees on private property and some on a little bit on public property too. So we'd like to, the only way to save trees at this point is to treat them chemically, and that has to be done every couple of years. It's expensive, so we don't anticipate doing that to a lot of trees in the public areas, but private landowners may be interested in subscribing to a plan whereby their trees would be covered under a contract, and they would pay their part to participate in having their trees treated in this way.
Is this a spray or a systemic?
Yeah, there are different ways to apply it, but mostly what we're thinking about is a systemic injection into the live tissue of under the bark.
These little things that look like pipes.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Does an ash have a life? I mean, I happen to have a 40 or 50-year-old ash, and it's got some issues. Is there a life that is 40 years the end of the life of a?
No, ash trees can live for a long time. They can stick around for 200-300 years and get quite large if they're not attacked by something or other.
So probably ought to put the disease resistant.
There's no real disease resistance. There may be some, about 1/2% of ash trees are surviving in the areas that are affected, and they're not sure if that's due to resistance or some other random factor. But we can't expect that there will be any significant number of trees that will survive. Our main concern is to make sure that the public right-of-ways are cleared of hazard trees, and that be done in a way that minimizes the cost to the town. So we are planning an inventory with the help of the Vermont Urban and Community Forestry Program. We've already done a preliminary inventory, and I think I mentioned this to you last time we talked, but there are about 700 we estimated, according to our 10% preliminary rapid roadside assessment. There are about 700 trees above 6 inches, ash trees that would need to be removed that could pose a possible hazard. So we want to do a full census of ash trees in our public right-of-ways to get a better handle on where these trees are and how much it's going to cost, and then to develop a plan and proposal to present to the select board. But one thing I want you all to be considering is that it's going to cost some amount of money, and we'll have some proposals for what the budget might be for doing this work.
Over a period of 2 or 3 years? Or?
We're thinking of a 4 or 5 year period.
You're removing trees?
Yeah,
And-
removing
And what are
trees.
you doing with the wood and with the materials afterwards?
That's something to be determined, and it kind of depends on what stage we are with the emerald ash borer infestation. If it's before the emerald ash borer gets here, we're going to be trying to remove currently healthy ash trees that will eventually be dead and, falling into the road, possibly. That material can be left for landowners to use, or we can invite people who are interested in gathering firewood to remove it. It's one of the things that we're discussing right now. It's like, how to dispose of this material, and then, if we need disposal sites, where would those be? That's also an issue. It's something we haven't figured out
I'm
yet.
just wondering if you're cutting down something that's infected and everything, what are you doing with that wood?
If it's
If it's already got the emerald ash borer?
oh, yeah. Well, that is something to be determined also, so we haven't quite figured out what we're going to be doing with that. But if it's a primary outbreak, like and emerald ash borer isn't all over the place, we'll probably we'd want to have it cut and left in place or moved within a very small radius for firewood. If the emerald ash borer is well established and is all over the place, we're not going to worry too much about it, and we can ship it to McNeil for chips or do whatever with it.
Is there a motion to reappoint Mark?
Make a motion to reappoint Mark Dillenbeck as our tree warden for a term ending April 30th, 2019.
I'll second that.
Any other comments? Appreciate what you're doing on the,
Well, I
Yeah,
appreciate
trees.
your confidence in me and the tree warden team.
Thank you.
any other comments? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you for your public service. The next is Acorn, Tour de Farms, September. Why don't you come forward and just give us a minute or two of the plan? And your name is?
I'm Amelia Norris, and I'm the event manager for the tour.
I'm Lynn Cole, and I'm the executive director of Acorn.
Acorn is the Addison County Relocalization Network, which is a nonprofit that aims to support agriculture in the Champlain Valley and supports agriculture's role in healthy communities. The Tour de Farms is a bike tour that's actually in its 11th year this year. That stops at several farms along a tour bike ride route. And each farm gives out samples and shares a little bit about what they do with the riders. And this year, it's kicking off in Vergennes, going through Ferrisburg and Charlotte, and then back to Vergennes. And then we also offer a 10-mile, that one's a 30-mile route, and then we also offer a 10-mile route that is actually not going through Charlotte. That one will just go through Vergennes and Ferrisburg. Yeah, so this is the map of the entire route. And then I believe there's another map that shows just the zoomed in Charlotte portion. So this is a preliminary map that I made up with what we thought would be needed for traffic control, as well as Dean's recommendations. But we are definitely willing to revise this based on your recommendations. And I've also already been advised that the little X at the corner of Bingham Brook and Guinea Road, that one probably isn't necessary, but maybe one at the corner of Guinea Road and Heinsberg Road would be necessary.
Definitely.
because that's a more serious intersection. So that was my mistake. But I would be happy to provide an updated map once you make your comments and recommendations.
So would you have 300 riders doing the Charlotte portion, or are they, it's a large group, I'm just,
That would probably be the maximum. I think that one of the things that you should know is that we stage it. First of all, it's not a race, it's a tour. All of the riders are given an instructional safety before they're let go. We let riders go in groups of 20, and we stage between those so that you don't have 300 people on your road all in a big bunch. We also have volunteers from Local Motion who will be riding and driving. We have 2 farm vans that will be driving the roads along with them. And we will also have support for breakdowns and making sure people are being safe from Earl's Bike Shop in Williston.
so any issues with the date, Dean?
No,
16th?
no, there's no conflicts with that date.
Well, this is on the website all set up already for Charlotte, so we wouldn't be saying no to this anyways, because it's been planned for quite some time. Because I saw it on the website already,
Where?
on a website, I saw the whole map.
Acorn website or
Yeah,
Charlotte's
Acorn,
website?
Acorn, with Charlotte included. So not that I'm going to say no, but it looked like when I saw it on the map that we wouldn't have that option anyways, because,
You certainly always have that option. We
Already.
hope you don't.
well, no, we don't. I just was curious,
Sure.
timing wise, there was already,
This doesn't actually use town land, it just goes over roads, right?
Right.
Okay.
Riders will be stopping at private land in Charlotte.
How do you
That-
determine where they stop? Is it a,
It's farmers that have, that either we've approached or have expressed interest in being part of the tour. So, yeah, it's stopping at 3 in Charlotte, Adamsbury Farm, Philo Ridge Farm, and Pelkey's Blueberries.
So is there a motion to approve this application?
make a motion to approve the Acorn Tour de Farms on September 16th, 2018.
Is that seconded?
I'll second.
Any further comments or discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
You're good to go.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
If there's people that are stopping, if they're not stopping
The-
on town land, we can't keep them off.
The water operation proposals?
No, so, this was already all set up.
So we opened the bids last time, right?
Right.
And we have beach, town hall, library, and an hourly rate. So what is your recommendation, Dean?
Well, I first was wondering if we could find one of the contractors to, one of the low bids for the, kind of a little bit of a mix and match approach in order to get the lowest total. So Chevalier was the lowest quoter for the beach, LAG was the lowest quoter for the town hall and library. Chevalier did not want to just do the beach. The next highest bidder for the beach was Luxembourg, and he didn't want to just do the beach. So basically, we're looking at the lowest bidder, lowest cost total was Luxembourg, $2,400. However, hourly rate is $75. LAG was just higher than that, 2,451 total with a lower hourly rate of 65. So if you want to go with a low total, that would be Luxembourg.
Do we tend to have, take advantage of the hourly rate? Does it usually work above and beyond what's,
Not really. I mean, it would be if there was a failure and there was additional work. And there hasn't been for several years.
so Luxembourg would be a new contractor for us if we went to low bidder, right?
It would be.
Are we, any experience or confidence or?
No experience. The references were the state personnel, which I haven't checked, but I can check if that was of interest. And just, I guess just procedurally, the bid was submitted by email instead of a sealed bid. It's not at the $5,000 threshold as far as the purchasing policy goes, but the rest of the RFP was done as considered a major purchase.
Was the electronic bid on time?
It was.
Okay. Yes, Mary?
Why aren't we just testing the beach ourselves? Like the senior center, Carl Herzog filled out and they paid for the application for, what is it, certified one, level one or something? So he tests the water at the senior center and gets the water kits and sends them out, and why are we doing this at the beach? Why don't we just go down and test it, just like the senior center does theirs for like cheap?
If the recreation director or the recreation commission wants to, that's fine.
Did you ask them?
I didn't hear any volunteers when I asked them if they were okay with this going out to bid.
I mean, Janine used to do it, Tom used to do it, Joe used to do it. I think Joe did it, maybe
No,
not, I don't remember Joe.
Joe didn't do it.
But it just seems like we're spending a lot of money for something that we can just do ourselves.
Nicole will probably do it. Yeah.
I don't think anybody's been specifically asked, like, hey, we're gonna spend $1,300 testing the water at the beach, or maybe would you be interested in doing it? Can you go down to the beach and do it?
I think she does do the beach water, the lake water. She tests that.
We're already past due on opening up the beach without having it been inspected, is that correct?
What was that?
So aren't we past due in terms of opening the beach to public use without an inspection?
No, we have a contractor currently. It's LAG.
Okay, so that's for this year, they already
Oh, this
did.
is effective July 1st?
Right.
So what's new to Mary's point, what did we do last year? We didn't do the beach, we did on our own?
LAG.
Did the beach?
Yep.
Who did the town hall?
LAG.
And the library?
LAG.
So was that last year the first time for the beach for them?
I think it was the end of 2016 when Janine left.
So up until then, we had done it ourselves.
I mean, do we want to delay this and ask for all three? I mean, what's your?
Do their prices remain if they just do the town hall and library?
I don't know. I haven't asked. We do need a class 3 for the town hall and library because it has UV.
So that's a professionally,
It's more likely to be professional. Yep, someone with certification.
so do you want to proceed with this, or you want to ask Recreation if they want to do this?
If somebody wants to go to school and get certified, I guess.
Well, I think the point is only beach.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
But you have to be certified for doing the beach?
It's very low level. I think,
An application
yeah.
Yeah. Sure, let's put it off and put it off till next meeting and ask, see if there's anybody who wants to do it.
Okay.
asking if anybody wants to do the beach, and then also we might want to ask
Yeah, we'll have to ask the contractors.
the
if they're-
contractors if they're willing to hold the prices on the library and the town hall
Yeah.
only.
Okay. We'll do that.
Yep.
Charlotte Housing Trust Fund Grant Program, Affordable Housing. A lot of you are here.
I'll give a very brief introduction. After the April 23rd Select Board meeting, there was discussion about the affordable housing, the Charlotte Housing Trust Fund Grant Program. And after that, a group of residents, picked somewhat randomly, well, due to their interest, met twice and came up with recommendations to the Select Board. And there were about 6 on that met, and several of them are here tonight, so I'll turn it over, start with Nancy. Well, actually, let me just say who's here. Nancy,
Yeah, Peter was really the leader of the group, but I was on it, Peter was on it,
Mike
Michael was
Russell,
on it,
Kate.
Kate was on
Oh,
it.
here it is, okay.
No. I'll happily talk about it, because I, as you know, I was the one who kind of prodded you at town meeting the last 2
Right.
years to try to do something to get the affordable housing effort back on track, because we've been looking at a trust fund that had over $130,000 in it that wasn't being utilized ever since the committee was basically disbanded. And we had some really interesting meetings. Thanks very much to Dean for really pulling together the notes for us and facilitating the meetings, Peter for organizing it and calling all of the people who've received money in the past and looked into it. We had some very interesting discussion about what some of the weaknesses of the trust fund documents were at this point, and perhaps how that has discouraged some use of it. They seem fairly restrictive, the requirements that there always be in perpetuity provisions in any of the grants, which works great in many ways for the taxpayers. If our goal is to have affordable housing, we want it to be affordable not just that year, we want it to be affordable over time. But on the other hand, if you're looking at a homeowner who is going to put a apartment, for example, this was one of the things that was promoted by the committee. If you're going to build an apartment at your home and you're required to have perpetual affordability provisions on it, it is an encumbrance on your property. And it also requires, I think, invasive information about the person who's renting it, for example, and maintaining contact with the town in terms of keeping track of whether or not the affordability requirements are being met. So there were some issues around that. On the other hand, the most active use of the fund was with the nonprofit organizations, Habitat for Humanity and Champlain Housing Trust. The 7 of the 7 dwellings that were built using some of the funds, 6 of them were with the nonprofits. And when you work with the nonprofits, all of those bureaucratic issues are taken care of. They deal with the affordability issues. They deal with, the renters and the owners of the property. The town doesn't have to get involved in those issues. So I think others might agree that we pretty much concluded that the fund should be based on what our town plan has really promoted, which is it's a good thing in Charlotte to encourage more diversity in terms of both economic diversity and other kinds of diversity. We want to have affordable housing in town for various populations, which include seniors, which is what I really was promoting in particular, but also working people in the various areas of employment where they may not have high wealth and high wages, but they really want to live in Charlotte. It's a beautiful place. We have people who are trying to develop farming operations. Often they don't have a lot of wealth to purchase property, but they're a wonderful addition in terms of our mix in town. So anything that we can do, or the select board can do, to move ahead with the trust fund, encourage some flexibility in it, look at the very specific details, and our document makes very specific recommendations about, and we can go over that in detail if you want, but making it more flexible is very important. Having it be set up in a way that the nonprofits are encouraged to get involved, but for-profit developers also. I mean, I personally think it would be wonderful if we had opportunities for seniors to buy a small condominium in the village of East Charlotte or West Charlotte. We currently don't really have anything like that in town, but we do have people in town who are ready to move on from their larger homes. They want to downsize. They want to be near the senior center or the Grange or the churches, and they want to stay in town, but where are they going to go? We don't have apartments or small senior-specific condominiums that would be appropriate. So there's lots of opportunities out there, and I think the fund doesn't need to be so specific that it restricts things, but rather it needs to be promoted. You know, where are the opportunities? Who's willing to do the development? Does people have a home that they could convert into a couple of apartments for, you know, seniors or people who would like to rent something that's not as expensive, or are there homes that could be somehow subsidized, maybe some development rights activity through the land trust that would help to make the land more affordable. There's lots of opportunities out there, and I think we could use more imagination and really promote it and encourage folks to really take advantage of it.
Nice job.
Others?
So, as an example, right now, what I think you started to say, one of the problems for a project, like you say, an extra bed in a house, the maximum grant would be $10,000.
That's the way the current document is written.
The current guide.
Yes.
And then you have to hold the rent in perpetuity, right?
Correct.
And so it's too restrictive, is your point.
Well, for some, I mean, how many people really want to restrict encumber their property
For
with
$10,000.
this kind of, you know, for a $10,000 grant? And then the provisions for paying it back. I mean, there are provisions for paying it back, but, you know, that is with interest, and, you know, it's done in a way that it could be more flexible. But you certainly want it to benefit, you know, you want it still to be affordable.
What is affordable? Is there a dollar figure we're working to?
There is, I mean, if you're talking about official affordable, it's based on the county median income. So if you can peg it either at the median or percentage of median.
Of income. But, I mean, what is an affordable building?
Okay, so
150,000,
it'd be 30%. It would cost 30% of the income that's at median, or, well, whatever income you choose, and then it's 30% of that income.
But we don't have a number for a house, what we call affordable.
Well, there are figures for rentals. I mean, you know, like one apartment, we did have some numbers, like $900 a month for a single bedroom apartment.
Is that just the rent, or is that including all the utilities?
Well, that's where you get into, you know, are you talking about all of the living expenses, you know, it's meeting 30% of the median income for the family? I mean, that's where it starts getting really complicated. But affordable, if you look at, I mean, there are other ways to look at it. I mean, look at Chittenden County. Charlotte has the highest median price for housing, for buying a house in the county. If you looked at, you know, maybe, I mean, there are other ways to look at it. Or we could define it in other ways. We could look at it in terms of, well, what's affordable in, for example, Jericho or Milton in the county, and how do you make sure that in Charlotte, for our real estate benefit, can be competitive with that.
Right.
How can we encourage
What's the
people?
difference between affordable for the low income and affordable for the landlord?
Well, and you're not necessarily just talking.
Because because I look at what rents are around in Charlotte now. And does anybody have an idea of what places rent for in Charlotte?
Well, I personally have 2 rentals, and one is under $1,000, and the other is under $1,600 per month. And those are basically quite affordable rents. I see others advertised in the $2,000 to $2,500 range a month for, say, a 2 or 3 bedroom apartment or a house.
Did you have a conversation about how a town plan can be, have parts that incentivize landowners to create affordable lots? Can we talk about that at all? And is there anything in the town plan that does that?
The current land use regulations do provide density bonuses. I mean, if that's incentive.
Right,
yeah.
there are density bonuses that are applied, that go into affordable housing. But for an individual person who wants to make this accessory apartment, there's no benefit to them except the money they get from the affordable, from the grant.
But the land use regulations allow an accessory apartment without requiring additional density, which is based on state statute.
Right, but they can do that without it being affordable.
Well, I guess
Right.
considering that it sounds like not too many people are taking advantage of that, there's probably reasons, and how do you bump it up if that's your goal, if that's a value of the town that's starting to outweigh other values. And it's all about, what's more valuable.
Well, the town plan has some very specific language under housing strategies. Number 4, I mean, first of all, it recommends reappointing members to the Affordable Senior Housing Committee, and that this group should work with the Planning Commission in evaluating land use regulation incentives for the creation of affordable senior housing. And under that, work with regional organizations in educating citizens about available resources, including home services, and to work with the Planning Commission in identifying locations for potential projects and potential partners. It's very proactive in terms of what the town plan is, actually the language in the town plan recommends, and to encourage development review applicants to consider affordable or senior housing when presenting their subdivision proposals at sketch plan review, and provide information about an affordable housing trust fund. I mean, these are ways basically to encourage people who are looking to develop in town, and establish an annual meeting between the Planning Commission and the Affordable Senior Housing Committee to assess the town's progress in meeting housing needs. A lot of this is just part of being proactive, I think. And encourage the preservation and reuse of existing buildings through the application of density bonuses and/or flexibility in other dimensional requirements of Charlotte's land use regulations. And you are, reviewing land use regulations at this time, or will be, in order to meet what the town plan recommends.
Well, there's already, in our zoning regulations, there are already affordable housing bonuses and regulations within the zoning bylaws now. And I don't disagree with you. I think that the town plan, says that we should appoint an affordable housing committee.
And do you see that working with the zoning board and with the planning commission in a way that would be helpful in encouraging applicants to perhaps build more affordable housing or consider affordable options within?
I mean, it's kind of like the Conservation Commission in a way. They have their input when the Planning Commission is making their decision. When they're having their meetings, they come in and they have their input on where they feel the woods should stay where the wildlife corridors are. I mean, I don't see why the Affordable Housing Committee couldn't make their recommendations to the Planning Commission during a meeting, during a subdivision.
The experience I've had with that is there was a request to the applicant, do they want to do affordable housing? No, that's it. I mean, you know, an applicant either wants to do it and they're coming in with it, or they're really not interested because it's, you know, they're developing for a
I
reason.
agree, and just because they offer the density bonuses in our affordable housing bylaws, there are contractors and developers who are going to make a development and don't want the affordable housing aspect in it.
Right.
That's, I think, one of the areas where the requirement that affordable housing and in perpetuity have to be together. When you have that requirement, I think there are a lot of developers who reject it. But on the other hand, if they know they could get a grant of, say, you know, $20,000 or whatever, towards the development of one of the housing units to be built on a somewhat smaller scale than the others, because size is one of the things that really dictates affordability, on a smaller piece of land, but within the same community development. You know, if you have 5 houses being built, and you can have a certain amount of money contributed from the fund, you keep one of the lots smaller, the house a little smaller. I mean, that could be where grandma lives. Pardon?
I've never cared for that idea.
Well, I was just.
5 houses, you know, I've heard that before, but
in North Carolina,
something about that.
And there's a mix of houses in the neighborhood. I mean, there's some, you know, for example, if I were to want to buy a house near where my daughter is, I wouldn't want a great big house. I'd want the smaller house.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the more affordable house. I mean, there are different ways of looking at affordability. It doesn't have to be, okay, we have a cluster of affordable homes for low-income people. It's how do you make some of the housing affordable for whoever it is?
Have a cluster of homes that, not for low income, but a cluster of homes.
A cluster of homes where there's different levels of affordability.
Or small homes, small clusters, small homes.
Anyway, I think there's, with imagination, thinking outside the box, encouraging people to consider the possibilities, there are ways to make it work. And the money provides some incentive towards doing that.
So, you brought it up at town meeting, and we were challenged a month or so ago, you know, what's happening, where we're going. So you've done the research on what exists, recommendations to a current, I guess it's a policy or procedure. We don't have a committee of senior housing. We don't have a committee yet. I mean, what would you like us to do next based on your work? What makes the best sense here?
Well, I think the recommendations that we made were that it doesn't necessarily have to be a committee. I mean, the select board can continue to have the full responsibility for it, with perhaps hiring someone on a consulting basis to help in terms of finalizing a new document and, you know, getting some information. I think there's a certain amount of research that's required in terms of understanding what level of grant actually is effective. You know, I mean, how much does it cost to build a house, and how much of a grant really would make a difference to a developer? Those are hard facts. You know, I don't know them off the top of my head. Or to do an apartment in a house. I mean, you could have a financial consultant to help you come up with that. Or you could appoint a committee and say, okay, go ahead and take these recommendations and, you know, try to pull together, you know, a good marketing plan and more flexible, specific regulations based on these recommendations, and do some of the things it says in the town plan in terms of working with the planning commission and the zoning board to see if we can get some movement. It's really up to the select board how much responsibility do you want to have to get it moving, or do you want to try to give it more of a push and get some people on a committee to actually be proactive?
It really needs focused, proactive time. And a half an hour at a meeting is tough to do that.
Well, if I can, Peter Richardson. Nancy, that's a great summary of what we put forward from this working group. I think where we are now is to say the program that was designed 10 or 12 years ago has not achieved what was hoped to achieve. We've tried to point out in this fairly abbreviated analysis that didn't have the rigor of anything that was beyond some phone calls and some common sense, to say there is a program, tweaking it will make it better. I don't think that what we as a working group are coming and saying is, let's throw the whole baby out and start over with some fresh bathwater. What Dean has suggested in terms of where to go from here makes sense to us. That the select board functioning as a committee as a whole, rather than trying to appoint or reappoint a citizen committee to look at this thing further, it would be much more efficient just to have some conversations if you are in favor of the recommendations generally that we're offering. And there are a half a dozen that are fairly specific, but they're not completely worked out. But taking the framework of the program now, saying this tweak, this change, this release of the ceiling, the focus of priorities to be treated this way, now you've got a new program, a modified program that should work better.
So your suggesting is from the specific recommendations of the policy signed off 2011, take a look at, open the barriers a bit.
Yeah.
We have, what is 139,000 in the fund, hasn't been used, 139,000. Open up the barriers. I mean, that's not so difficult, but I'm wondering if there's professionals in town or consulting that could do some of the things you're suggesting, working from the town plan, from land use regulations. That's a little bigger chunk than updating our policy.
As I say, I don't think there's been enough experience with these kinds of priming programs. There are a ton of programs, and Vermont has used them wisely. The affordable housing community has. There's a lot of support that's traditionally come from the state. There are lots of ways to manipulate the mathematics around affordability. It's slightly different with tenants as distinct from home purchasers. There are various moving parts. What this program attempted to do was to say, let's put 10 grand down and see if we can buy perpetual affordability with that investment that's made with the participation of landowners, of property owners in town. And it's worked out like once.
Right.
And it's worked out, and Mark may want to talk about this. He and I had a phone conversation about it, and it was quite interesting to me. He's not unhappy with it. If I can speak for him, then I'll let him speak for himself. But it's not perfect, and it can be reorganized, I think, with this select board making sure that you're in control of it, to say, let's loosen this thing up and see if we can make this thing more fluid.
What we did was something we worked on, kind of finishing up today. For the last 3 or 4 months, we have a major ordinance we've been working on, and we meet for 1 hour, 6 to 7, that's what we've been doing. And then people like yourselves have been coming, this was Thompson's point, they've been coming to the meetings and a lot of feedback, and frankly, we made a lot of progress and got a lot done because it was 1 hour dedicated, and we're not, people aren't standing in line because we're late. At the end of the hour, we cut it off, and then we go on to our regular agenda. I mean, we could start, sounds like you're suggesting we start that type of task and dedicate some time to it.
I think it makes a lot of sense. I mean, there's talent here, and there's talent that's on this working group that can provide a lot of technical assistance behind the policy discussions that you would have in this kind of circumstance you described. I think that this can be, you can move from this framework, this skeleton, to something that really does change and conclude with an operatable program in a couple or 3 months.
So, sound like a way to go, like we've done the ordinance we've been working on for months? Get the community,
Yeah, I mean, my gut feeling is that it's not enough. It costs $10,000 to remodel a bathroom.
I mean, this is very I mean,
This
this
is
isn't worth it.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Otherwise,
remodeling a bathroom does not give you affordable housing. I mean,
That's why we're saying, let's crank that up to 50,000.
so we'll have one or two and we're done.
Well, if the program is successful, then we can get recapitalized.
We fund it, right. Right.
Throughout July 9th is a possibility for,
Want to start it then,
is that,
when you're back?
Yeah.
And then we'd invite you folks that been participating. It really works well the way we've done it. This other, and just get your feedback, because we don't have the expertise. You do, and work together, and
We go line by line.
does that sound good to you, Nancy?
That sounds great.
Good.
Move it along.
Okay, let's do that. Okay, so we'll put it as a 6 o'clock kickoff, July 9th meeting, and let's take a look and get into the nuts and bolts of it.
And we can do some work in anticipation of that. If I'm hearing that correctly, we can consult with Dean to try to interpret what your feedback is based on this brief set of recommendations. If they feel generally appropriate, that will be a good start point for how to shift and reform the program that currently exists. Is that a fair conclusion?
Yeah, let me just ask you, so this deals with the room renovation, you know, which we've already said a couple times is kind of restricted, but what about, I think, I've looked at what Shelburne has done in several locations for affordable housing, which somehow they've attracted contractors to come in and do some nice work. I mean, where Jesovitz used to be, opposite TD Bank, there's a lot of affordable housing where contractors have been willing to invest and create housing.
Those are really, the developers of those properties are nonprofits. And they hire contractors to do the work. But you're right, and there are some good, attractive, appealing, and successful endeavors that Shelburne has accomplished. You've done some here in Charlotte, but not much.
That's what I would like to see within the town plan and the land use regulations. And, you know, a bigger chunk, I think Mike has talked about that a lot to me, over the last couple of years, and just haven't gotten off first base.
Good.
Okay? Anything else to add to the,
Thank you for taking it up.
yes, Mark?
So I thought I'd take maybe a minute or two just to explain my experience. So apparently I was surprised when Peter called me and I learned that I was the only person, my wife and I, had taken advantage of this program. But our circumstances were maybe a little bit unusual, but we had just moved into our house. And it was after we moved into our house that we decided we would consider creating an apartment out of what had been a master bedroom wing of the house. And at that point we were tapped out cash-wise after moving into our place, and the idea of getting a $10,000 grant was appealing. So we took advantage of that. The whole project was about a $24,000 project, so we were able to create an apartment unit for that amount of money. And it's been a good thing. We've had some good tenants, and it's been helping us pay the mortgage, and I think it's achieved in a small degree the aims of the grant, which are to create affordable housing for people who otherwise couldn't afford to live in Charlotte. The current tenant is a single mother who's an accountant and lives off a modest income, and the kind of person who would never be able to afford to move to Charlotte unless there's this kind of opportunity available to her. So basically, we're on board, and you know, more or less happy that we made the decision at the time. It is a significant encumbrance, and if we think about at some point selling the house, then we have to pay back the $10,000, or the new owner has to pay back the $10,000 plus penalty. Or in another scenario, if we wanted to reclaim that part of the house for our own use, thinking about when we get older, because the apartment is on the first floor, we live on the second floor. I'm looking at my aging parents, and it can get hard for people to move up and down stairs. So we might want to reclaim that at some point in the future. And if we did, that would be, again, we'd have to pay the town the money back, and that's a little bit daunting to think about. So there could be some kind of reorganization of the formula to make it a little bit less punitive, or maybe a little bit more appealing for people who are considering this. I think that would be, we'd get more takers.
Interesting. Sounds like it worked.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks for the discussion. See if we can make some progress.
Didn't Dave Nichols use that too?
Hmm?
I think Dave Nichols used the fund.
Hey, Dave Nichols is the one I remember. He had an apartment off of Spear Street there. Yeah.
Does he never do it again?
I watched that.
Salary administration policy. There's a couple of things here. I have a recommendation. I've talked to Dean. We've talked a little bit. And we set the wages for the beach attendant library services assistants about a month ago, so we'd have the pay in place for the beach attendants based on the minimum wage. So, a suggestion that we talked about at that last meeting, it's on the spreadsheet. And what the proposal is start our pay grid at a grade 5, and then do away with 1 through 4 and call that a minimum wage. And we have beach attendants, library service assistants within that, the minimum wage. And so the left-hand side, step 0, is $10.50, which is the minimum wage. And then we use our Excel multipliers. And Carrie, you said, well, they ought to get 25 cents more each year. They come back as incentive. Well, our Excel spread does that. So $10.50 for year 1, $10.76 for the second year, $11.03. And those are the numbers we agreed on a month ago. But we didn't agree to this view of it in the actual layout as we have here on the grid. So I'm suggesting this to you, and then as the minimum wage changes, we change that number. The $10.50 becomes what the minimum wage is. And granted, eventually, there could be a crossover with level 5, and that's not a good thing. We don't want that to happen. But there'll be cost of living adjustments, and several years down the road, that minimum wage could could encroach upon the level 5. And then maybe we make an adjustment when we need to for the whole scale at a later date. So there's equity among the grade 5 and higher. So the proposal is shown here, and then it'll affect some words that we have in the policy. So I just, if you guys agree with the proposal or want to make changes to what's suggested?
Is a library assistant and a beach attendant equal in their job? Sort of like the beach attendant is taking money, they're responsible for telling people no dogs, they gotta clean the
They must be
bathrooms,
unsupervised.
and they're unsupervised.
Well, we did a Palmer analysis for folks. And so, and I don't have the old one, I don't think I need it, but they were all, I think, what we call, quote, a grade 2.
It's in the packet.
It's in the packet? Okay. Okay. So I think they were, is it true they were a grade 2? No?
Originally graded library service assistants at grade 1, and you put beach attendants at grade 2.
Okay,
You
you're
had
right.
a meeting in December of 2014, and apparently there was some discussion. There's no reasoning, I mean, in the minutes, there isn't anything that says why the grades for the library assistants were changed. It says you talked about it, and then there was no motion. But the end result was, in January 2015, those positions, the beach attendant and library service assistants, all found themselves as a grade 2.
Right. Well, I think we did a Palmer analysis before that.
Well, you did it before when you were classifying all the positions.
Right.
But then in December, before it became final in January of 2015, sometime in December, you had a meeting and you did what you did, but doesn't really say why you did it, and it doesn't have a motion.
Okay, Margaret?
As I recall, and I could be, this is drawing a memory from quite a few years ago, but I think I seem to remember a conversation about how the beach attendants and the library assistants were sort of lumped together, and yet they do quite different things. And certainly, library assistants are not unsupervised, and they don't have to deal with money. They do have to deal with information accountability. I mean, there is a state law that you have to protect people's privacy. How much that comes into play is anybody's guess, but that is part of what they have. They have to understand that that's what they have to do. They have to do quite a bit with computers. They have to be responsible for finding materials and being able to put away materials so other people can find them. So I don't think it's a more difficult job, but it's a different kind of job than being a beach attendant. And I think that is what this was trying to sort of tease out is, there's some things that get a higher rating for being a beach attendant, and there's a few.
At the end of the day,
The beach
they
attendant
ended up-
still has a higher rating than the.
right, but at the end of the day, they were both grade 2s, but different allocation of points.
I think the qualifications for being hired were a little bit higher for the libraries. I mean, I don't know that you don't have to know how to use a computer to be a beach attendant, but you do have to have familiarity with computer systems and be willing to learn how to check books in and out to work at the library.
Okay. So they're different, but at the time they were evaluated.
And then I think we came back after the library board had a meeting, and I didn't have a chance. I could, if anybody's interested, I could go back and look at the minutes for the library board meetings from November and December of 2014 and get back to you. I don't have that information with me tonight.
I think we're mixing minimum wage jobs with career-oriented jobs. I think like a beach attendant and a library assistant and someone who mows your lawn and any number of things is not designed to be a career. I think Palmer is more designed for career jobs. And when you start raising minimum wage and comparing that to people that are trying to do some of these other things as a career, that, I think minimum wage jobs, you should just call them that and say, this is what it is. You're not gonna ever get insurance. You're not gonna get rewards for coming back year after year after year for a minimum wage job. I think that's the way this kind of works until, I mean, who knows what they're gonna vote on. Like
For
I
the
said,
state minimum
yeah,
wage, correct.
we're gonna probably end up in a situation pretty soon where you're gonna tell all of our efforts to internal equity are gonna go down the tube because Palmer rates everybody according to what they can do, and if you all of a sudden just bring the bottom up here, everybody on the top's gonna get annoyed. So this proposal just basically says these are gonna be minimum wage jobs.
Right.
Period.
And they get recognition for coming back a second year or third year. And at least the beach attendants are, high school kids, young college kids, which seems appropriate.
So we don't need to have them on the grid.
I would just
Get rid
say
of
they
that.
get what minimum wage is.
But you don't want to recognize a second year or third year?
I wouldn't.
I would.
Well, if you would, the formula does that.
Similarly. Yes, but
Yeah,
then
the formula-
you're talking about, well, it's someday it's gonna be this, that, this,
No, all I'm
that.
saying is
Just
minimum wage could
yeah.
exceed our grade 5.
Well, then let's not have minimum wage, just do them separately.
Well, that's what this does.
No, it doesn't.
Minimum wage could exceed our.
Not even be
It could
on
exceed
there.
9. It keeps on going up to $15.
No, because you're going to have cost of living that's going to move up.
Yeah,
Why do you have cost of living for a beach attendant? And,
We
I don't
don't.
wanna sound mean or
We don't.
anything, but these are they're just kids, this is their first job, or maybe whatever, they're working like
No
minimal
cost of-
hours at a minimal job, and you're concerned with a step increase in a cost of living?
No,
Take
we're
them
not.
off the grid and pay them,
You're
like,
not listening.
they're just kids,
You're
at
not
minimum
listening.
wage.
5 through 20 have the cost of living. The column here that says minimum wage is minimum wage with recognition of a second year or a third year or a fourth
So
year.
once the minimum wage goes up to $11, now your minimum wage people, because they're still on the grid, they jump up to 11, and then they jump up higher because you're giving them a cost of living and a step increase.
We're not
Can we
touching.
just not pay them like kids?
You're not speaking, you're not listening. We're
Yes, I
not
am.
touching cost of living for minimum wage. Not touching it. Minimum wage is what the state defines.
What?
this doesn't give a cost of
There's
living
no
increase.
cost of living for minimum wage jobs.
It just gives it a recognition of repeat.
The steps to the
Years.
right are a formula of about 2.5%. If you look at the Excel spreadsheet here, it's a 2.5% growth. That's just an experience factor, has nothing to do with cost of living. The minimum wage that we're proposing has nothing to do with cost of living.
I think they should just stay minimum wage jobs, period.
What do you do for the second year or third
You
year?
get minimum wage job.
They like their job.
Just one job, period. Everybody gets the same
Everybody-
thing.
These jobs get minimum wage. If the state raises it up, you get a raise. You come back, I mean, if you start giving people, you get a minimum wage job classification and somebody hangs around for 10 years, you've just cost yourself out of the market because everybody else is paying that minimum wage for that amount of work. I mean, you can't pay, my favorite example is burger flippers. You can't keep paying a minimum wage burger flipper. Every year he gets more, and then all of a sudden your establishment is paying a whole lot more for labor than everybody else because they stick with what the job pays.
They're making good money now.
Yeah.
Margaret?
I guess, I don't know anything about the beach attendants, but I do know that it is worth it to us to have people continue in that job. And most of our assistants continue they work throughout the year, and then summer comes and, we have people going on vacation, they get to get some extra hours in. But it's worth it to us to be able to have them stick around, and we would like to recognize that they have accomplished something. They've gotten better at the tasks that they are asked to do, and in some cases are asked to do more complicated things. And we would like to encourage them to stay at the library and continue to do that. So I guess to me, that's one argument for having some increase in pay as recognition of their willingness to stick around and stay at the library. But I'm not familiar with wages or anything else, so that's just from my personal point of view at the library.
This is, when we talked last time, Carrie, at the board meeting, you felt it was important for a second-year Beecham tenant to be recognized, or a third-year Beecham tenant, a tenant. What this does is gives essentially 25 cents per hour for a second-year increase, 25 cents an hour for a third year. So it recognizes that, so they can, and I think Margaret's saying the same thing. It allows, it encourages them to come back and recognize they're getting a little more pay, even though it is a minimum wage job. And this is what this does.
We'll cap it.
Yeah.
Well, that's fine.
I was gonna say, could you do 5
know,
years?
right.
Do 5 years.
How are they gonna work?
Right.
Do 5 steps. That's not a bad idea.
They're on to whatever
Right.
their real job is, you were saying.
You could,
This only comes up because of Abigail.
you could do this for 5 steps, and there's, these high school kids, colleges aren't gonna come back for 5 years. So I think that's a good idea. But you can find it, it's here, people know what it's gonna be, we can easily adjust it, it's decoupled from the rest of our efforts here.
What happens when minimum wage goes up by a quarter, and then the person comes back, well, now they've got a 50-cent raise?
That's what I'm trying to say.
I didn't quite understand your example, when the moves back, what do you mean?
Right now, a person that's working, that starts this year,
Yep.
after the first,
Yep,
gets $10.50 an hour.
yep,
When the year comes around, if they approve another 25 cents, that brings them to $10.75, which is what we would have to pay them when they come back in June.
yep.
Now, 10.75 brings us almost to the next step. Now, they're here another year. Now,
Well, the
now we've gone from, now we're up to $11 an hour.
So the 1050, to your point, becomes 1075, right?
Right.
So that left column, the minimum wage, 1050 comes 1075.
Yep.
And they're coming back, so July 1st, they would make $11, that's correct.
So you're giving them a 50-cent raise, or a 75-cent raise, depending on
It's
whatever
the
they.
minimum wage plus a quarter.
We have raises built in here, not paying any attention to minimum raise, and then we have this outside influence, minimum wage screwing it up.
I'm just trying
So, which
to
is what
put in
Frank
view
is-
of exactly what
which
we're
is
trying
what-
to do
You
here.
said it's right.
And what you're saying is, I think it should just be minimum wage.
Then we have to take pay away from some people if we do that.
No, you can't do that.
That's in our policy not to take it away from
No, you
people.
can't take money away.
We've
No,
always-
they would be grandfathered in
That'd
until
be
this
right,
new year
grandfathered
starts. And they'd be grandfathered into that,
Yeah.
at least that minimum pay, and for the remainder
If they're
that they stay.
1076, we agreed on 1076 a couple days ago, a month ago. So that means they're grandfathered to stay there, and if the minimum wage goes up to 10.
Goes above that,
75, then they're
Then
only
every-
gonna get bumped up to
then
minimum wage.
everybody goes up to minimum wage.
They're minimum wage jobs. The state determines what we pay them. We don't worry about cost of living, we don't worry about
Right.
health care, we don't
Right.
worry about all that stuff. They're just minimum wage jobs.
On the grid or not?
It's a placeholder, we're not really using the grid.
Yeah.
It's a
Well,
placeholder.
Then they don't need to be on it.
No, well, we can just say that the following 2 jobs are minimum wage jobs and are determined.
And you wouldn't have to do,
You have other positions that are not on the grid, and you don't obsess over them. Like, what are you gonna pay them? You come to an agreement at budget season, what you're gonna increase those positions by or do for them or do for whatever. Why are we so crazed over minimum wage, for God's sakes? In the olden days, we used to say, you know, that kid was really good, he was really good, and last year was $9, and everybody else is gonna be $9, but that kid's gonna be $9.25, or he's gonna be $9.50. This is tiny money and tiny everything, and we are spending so much wasted time on this discussion for the kids. Like, we could see what they're all making it now, take them off the grid. The library comes in each budget season and says, this is what we would like our library service assistants to make this year. Is that okay with you? Nicole comes in and she says, these are the beach attendants, this one's a returning one, these are all new, this is what I think they should make. Is that okay with you? Why is this so difficult? I am like...
Okay, what would the board like to do? I'm proposing
What Mary just said.
the minimum wage. This is a placeholder where it's located, you can find it. If you don't, is there a desire not to give advances to anyone? They come back a second or third year, they're just gonna get minimum wage, period, except for the grandfather. couple
That's my vote.
Yeah.
And taken off the grid. They don't
Well,
need to be on here.
it's-
It's just a placeholder.
Yeah, I mean, you could put 10 spaces in between here instead of 1 space. They don't function with the grid.
Right.
They're just
But it
minimum wage
looks
jobs.
like it does.
Well,
It
that's,
looks
that's,
like it does.
They are functioning with the grid because every time the minimum wage changes, it changes everything. That's called
It's
functioning with the
decoupled.
grid.
It's decoupled, Mary.
They're coupled together, all of the minimum wage ones are coupled to
The
the,
minimum wage ones, yes, there's something
well, that's
called,
what we're talking about. Every time minimum wage goes up, their part of the grid that's supposedly not on the grid
decoupled.
changes.
It's decoupled. It's only the minimum wage goes up for those people in those categories. They don't get cost of living, and you're saying you don't want to have steps, that's fine.
those jobs get paid minimum wage. We don't calculate anything for them. So next year, when the government says minimum wage is $10.75 an hour, beach attendants and library services assistants will get $10.75 an hour.
Right.
So does that mean you're saying you just need one step there? Or
Yep, yeah, that's right.
whatever you- So you can take off the whole other
Yes,
thing because
that's
they're just
fine.
gonna be...
Sure.
This whole other thing was the thought to give them rewards for coming back year after year, which I don't think is appropriate for a minimum wage summer job.
So you
So
guys are okay with that?
this will just become white.
You have already.
Well,
We'll keep paying
grandfather
them.
them is what you,
Grandfather, then that's great.
We keep paying them what we're paying them.
Well, is it okay if we do, if the library, if we come in, the board comes in with its budget every year and says, here's minimum wage, we've got 2 people that were here last year, we really like the job they're doing, we'd like to pay them minimum wage plus 25 cents.
right, that's what my proposal is.
And this is actually gonna happen, I need to hire someone this summer, so that person will start at whatever minimum wage is, I'm not gonna give them.
Just go 5 steps. I agree with you, Mark, that's where I'm parked. You have 5 steps, and it raises a quarter per year from the minimum wage. So second-year person will get 25 cents more than the first-year person. That's what I'd like to see. It's not really tied to the grid. It's just located on here because it's a placeholder, what everybody gets paid. It's decoupled from the grid.
I wouldn't,
Then would also not kick over, I think this is what you were saying, Frank, about worrying about someone all of a sudden getting a bigger raise than maybe our budget would like. It doesn't, it's not connected to the fiscal year. It's just like, you come in February, we hire you at X.
Well, that's another issue. That's what Frank's point was.
Right, right.
Yes,
So
that
I'm
will
thinking
happen.
that it needs to be completely separate from.
they need to be just paid minimum wage, period. I mean, if you want to start introducing merit pay, well, if you can do it for beach attendant, why can't we do it for something else on here? That's a can of worms that started this whole thing, is that people were getting what they thought were unfair raises because somebody liked them better. The whole purpose of a public pay grid system is to know what you're gonna get and to expect it. So, if there's extenuating circumstances, I suppose that would be discussed at budget time. If to say anything other than minimum wage, if you just leave it capped at 5, that still means that maybe you weren't doing really good, but because you're here for the 2-year, you're gonna get the extra thing anyway. So that almost implies second-year person is gonna have merit pay. They may have been horrible and you would only want to give them minimum, maybe you're not even going to give them a job. So I would just leave it, yeah, well, I guess we vote, that's my speech.
Do we want to, so let me just ask again, do you want to recognize a second-year person or a third-year person?
No.
You're saying no,
Minimum wage job.
okay?
And they're not on, and we're gonna leave this, just the
Yep, just that.
that one little
Just a
square.
placeholder, yeah. So make, so you, this is totally contrary, Terry, from what you've wanted to do.
No, because if I'm not mistaken, Nicole or Margaret can come in next year and say you'd like to raise your
that's
budget.
not what
No,
they're saying.
no, not at all.
That's not what they're
You're
saying.
saying minimum wage, period.
That's what we're saying.
That's what you're saying.
Yes, it's a kid's job, it's minimum wage. And would really like to have, rocket scientists mowing my lawn because I could tell them all kinds of things, but that's not the market value of a lawnmower. And if you start paying more than the market value of a job, you're spending more money than you should.
Margaret can't take it out of her budget
We
if she
established
wants to
pay.
give a little extra to that second or third year person.
Then you break the principles of, I like that person a lot, so I'm gonna give that person 10%, I don't like that person. You can't do that. That's the whole point of this whole thing,
That's
why we
this
got
all
it
got
started.
started, is
Yeah.
because I don't like that other person over there.
Exactly.
That's right, and
Exactly.
this is just such,
Minimum
So-
wage, buy 'em free
Politics.
lunch out of slush
Would you
fund
con-
or what, something.
Would
I
you
don't care.
consider I guess you don't wanna consider steps. What about the rest of the board? We could stop it at 5 steps, and then, I mean, that's what you wanted, Carrie.
I understand, that's what I wanted that last time. I hate this grid.
You've mentioned that.
So,
Got it.
I've
Understand
gotta
that.
weigh everything. I'm not there yet. I'm liking what Fritz says because I also believe it's a minimum wage. But then I think about Abigail, who's coming back for the 3rd year, and you have your girl for so, but most of them are going to be there just for a year or two. But I don't want it to be all this complicated.
So what if you said 3 steps? I mean,
3 steps, yeah.
Most of them are not gonna be there longer than
It's
3
a
steps.
25-cent
And then it
increase.
just-
It's a .025, it comes out 25 cents. It's right there in the Excel. Go 3 steps then. Because I don't think you're gonna be happy
All right.
when
and then-
everybody is,
So if somebody comes back for the 4th year, they get paid
Flat.
the same as they did the 3rd year that they were.
They're crazy enough to come back.
I think if they heard this discussion, they would never even apply.
Yeah. Wow, it's so difficult.
No, it isn't. You're making it difficult.
not
Okay.
difficult at all.
Yes. I hate the grid. It's caused hours and hours and hours of discussion, wasted discussion.
So you willing to compromise on 3 steps, or you wanna just make it, I can make a motion if I want.
I-
3 steps is silly. If you
I'm-
want to do it this way, 3
I'm-
steps is silly.
I still think it should be minimum.
Well, make a
wage.
motion then.
I'll make a motion to make the job classification of beach attendant and library services assistant minimum wage jobs, not subject to the conditions of our pay grid.
Second.
Okay. So, anybody today that's paid more than that will be grandfathered until the minimum wage catches up to them.
Yes. Because we have in our policy not to go backwards on wages.
Right.
Which I think is fair.
So is the translation to that motion that the library can come in and suggest what they would like for returning?
No, not at all.
What if 3 members vote
For it, and 2 members
Oh,
vote
that-
against it.
Well, that's fine. That's not what the motion is.
So that is true, that they can come in at budget time and they can present what they would like their service assistants to make or increase to, just as recreation. True, false?
I would assume that if the select board sets the pay grid, it could be changed by majority.
I mean, I don't understand what the wording of what you just said, I guess.
Everybody is, in
Everybody
these categories are at
is the minimum wage person, those 2 categories. In the future, anybody can come in here and sit and propose whatever they want to the board, and if the board votes 3 in favor of it, there's no way of now saying, no, you can't do that in the future. That can happen at any meeting, any time, for any employee. Someone can propose that. It's up to the 5 people that are here to stick to the plan or to do something different. I don't see a way of prohibiting that. I certainly wouldn't encourage it, but I can't stop someone from coming here and saying, you know, this is the world's best beach attendant, pay him another 50 cents, and everybody says, yeah, do it. Well, okay.
So there's a motion on the table. Any other comments? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Do you vote?
Yes.
Okay. So, everybody's gonna get paid minimum, these people are gonna get paid minimum wage, and they'll be grandfathered, those that are paid more than that right now, until it catches up.
And they will be grandfathered at that. They don't get anything else either.
They'll never make more than, let's say, that a beach attendant's $10.76. If the minimum wage goes up a quarter, they won't get increased. So one pay for all.
So the beach attendant I know wants to go back to that job for the job, not because she was gonna get a raise.
Oh, no, I mean.
And
Okay.
she's gonna next year too, because it suits her lifestyle or schedule.
Okay, we're moving on.
All right.
The next topic is PFAS sampling at the Blue Flame landfill.
So the state is requiring this testing because they found there to be a higher presence of this material, which is what was found in Bennington near landfills. So they're requiring the testing. Lincoln Applied Geology, which does our analysis already, said they would add it to the October test sampling for $565.
How much was it last year?
I think their sampling is in the range of, we just got a bill, it's in the range of 1,600 per half year, so basically 3,200 a year about. So this would add 565 to that.
We do this every year.
This is special.
Yeah, this is special. I think we just sample it once. Actually, it's in the packet as far as the requirement, whether it's every year or.
This is a new test, it looks like.
It is, yeah. And so far, it looks like we'd just be doing it this one time.
So you do it one time, and if they find it, then you gotta do other stuff.
Right.
So it's just a one-time, not an annual?
Well, we don't know until you get the results.
Yeah,
Okay.
it doesn't specifically say.
I mean, there were some wells, what was that? What you say in Bennington was where they?
Right.
People were having, and the state responded by making more rules. So now we're testing our landfill to see if we're doing that to the neighbors also.
So it's a one-time increase to comply with the state requirement, right?
I don't know that it's one time. I mean,
It may be, right this minute it is.
Maybe one time or maybe.
So is there a motion to,
Motion to approve the PFAS sampling at Plouffe Lane landfill to LAG for $565.
Second.
any further discussion on that? All in favor, say aye. Aye? Okay. Municipal Roads Grant and Aid Application.
So we did this last year. Last year was the first year it was offered. Basically, it's a grant program designed to help towns meet the new state specifications for the municipal roads grant, or municipal roads permit. So they're offering it this year, and they indicate the town would be eligible to get a grant of up to $9,200.
So we would pick the next two priorities
Right.
on our list that we were pretty much given by the state and say we want a grant to do these two things.
Yep.
Okay. So we did the road inventory. Basically, the state did it for us. And there's a number of projects on there that have a priority. We applied for a grant for 2 of them last year, right?
It was Lewis Creek Road in 2 locations.
Two locations.
Yep.
So we'll pick the next one that's a priority item and submit for a grant for that.
So then when we do this, we're committing to a 20%, 2,300, which comes out of the highway budget, town highway budget?
Yep.
Okay. Is there a motion?
You okay with that 20%? Yes. Motion to approve the municipal, to apply for a municipal road grant aid program. Sorry, that's my last motion. I'm out of mouth.
So, do you have to have somebody sign it, so should we?
Yeah, there will be a notice of intent, which I can have you.
You authorize it?
To be signed by the chair.
Okay. That's been seconded?
Second.
Any discussion? You're okay with this, as you said? Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye? Okay. Better Roads Grant.
Better Roads Grant is a grant we were awarded to do work on Lime Kiln Road. And this is the grant agreement, $19,200. The town's match is $4,800.
And the 4,800 comes from where? So this has already been approved. So this motion would be to accept the grant
Right.
and then authorize somebody to sign it. Is it just
Right.
the board or chair or?
Chair.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion to accept the Better Roads grant for $19,200 to assist with rock lining ditch along Lime Kiln Road and to authorize the chair to sign the agreement.
Any further comments on that? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay.
Thanks, Junior. I'll talk to you tomorrow when I did talk to Mike.
And want me to make a motion to reappoint
Yes.
Cheryl Benoit to the Planning Advisory Committee of the Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission for a term ending June 30th, 2020.
Is that seconded?
Second.
Any comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And we're moving right along here. What about the next one, Carrie?
Okay, I'll make a motion to have an agreement with the Animal Control Housing with Comfort Hill Kennel, so,
Authorize the chair to sign.
and authorize the chair to sign.
And this is the initial item that you were gonna add to the,
Okay. So, is that motion seconded?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion with Comfort Hill? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay. Now, this next one that was added to the agenda is Thompson's Point, Valerie and J.C. Bybeck. Bubak.
Bebop.
Bebuk, B-I-E-B, Bebuk. It's a lease. And,
This is the other half of the settlement thing where we split the lot and they agreed to lease the lot in half.
right. Is there a motion to approve the lease for
Yep.
J.C. and Valerie?
Yes,
Okay.
there is.
Lot one half, lot 128 and 129.
Sure.
1046 Flat Rock Road.
Perfect.
Second.
Yeah.
And authorize the chair to sign?
Yeah.
Okay. Any comments?
No.
All in favor, say aye.
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 This requires a notary, or?
yeah, it does.
Okay.
Signed with the town clerk.
So I'll be here. That's the original. Okay. Minutes, May 29. Is there a motion to approve as may be amended?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of May 29th, 2018, as may be amended.
Okay. I didn't find anything. Well, when are the computer bids gonna be in?
I have to look, sorry.
Oh,
It's on the,
I mean, are you gonna be out when they come in, or?
no, I don't think so. They are due. They are due June 21st, which I will be here for that. I won't be here for the opening, which is the 20.
I wonder how we're gonna handle that as far as, I mean, Mary and Christine all had inputs. I mean, when that comes, this isn't so much about the minutes.
You can put off the award until.
But we've extended SimQuest and anyway indefinitely, so we could put, okay. Anybody have any comments on the minutes? All in favor of the motion to approve the minutes of May 29th, indicate by saying aye. Aye?
Aye.
Okay. The warrants are here. Any more items to bring before the board?
That I can think of. There was this piece of paper in here about the library, technical library person. What was that?
Well, it was the same discussion about the library assistants back in 2014. There was seemingly agreement to raise the score, not to change the pay grade, but one of the factors, I think, raised it 5 points, so the total
Are we saying that was just a
That just has gone away because.
well, he's talking about the technical librarian, which
yeah,
is,
the technical library?
Not
which
the,
was-
okay.
Is that just like a,
it was in the minutes of December 19.
so this is just a typo in the grid?
Yeah, I mean, it is. Mary raised it appropriately that the current, sorry, I mean, she raised it regarding the library assistants, and then in looking at the minutes, I found that it also indicated,
That we raised the library,
Yeah.
technical librarian 5 points,
right, it's
but we
just,
never put that into the chart.
exactly, yeah.
Well, if that's a,
You want to make a motion to do that? The other one's gone away because,
Yeah, so if we approve this at a meeting and we just didn't do it in the grid, we should have, this is just a clerical correction, right?
yeah,
Yeah, doesn't change anything on the grid, really.
no. Do you want to make a motion or just?
Sure, we'll make a motion to raise the qualifications, or not raise, but to adjust the technical librarian qualifications to 75 from 70 as agreed at a prior meeting, which gives it a total of 300 points.
Correct. Is that seconded?
I'll second that.
I guess just to be clear for the minutes, the prior meeting was December 19th, 2014.
December 19th, 2014.
Oh, that was on the tip of my tongue, too.
Any other questions on that motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's a good catch. Anything else? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Seconded, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.